Perhaps you could give us a brief overview and introduction of yourself and your contributions to this industry.
Excellent. So I've been involved in the sporting industry professionally now for over 30 years, and I believe the reason I gravitated to the sporting industry because as a young boy growing up in the islands of the Pacific Ocean, in a time when there were no TVs, we didn't have bitumen on the road, there were no tall buildings, no trains, the white people were the minority. We played a lot. We played all sports and we just played like the villagers play in an indigenous population. So I developed an affinity for play, which then built into an affinity for sport, but I still treat sport as play. So I always want people to enjoy what they're doing. And ultimately, I went to boarding school in Australia and then went to university in Australia with the single goal of find out what is the best way to train. I didn't go there to get a job, I just wanted to know what the best way to train. And while I was at university, people started approaching me, in particular the athletes, and saying, Ian, we like the way you train, can you help us? So I began helping a diverse range of athletes in the early 1980s without realising what I was doing. And by 1986, I had over 100 athletes, elite athletes, that I was responsible for, so I said, perhaps I should turn this into a business. So we started our business as such in 1986. And I studied what I was doing, and I watched and I assessed what I was doing, and I didn't really start publishing until into the late 90s. But by the time I got to the late 90s, after nearly 20 years of experimenting, I started sharing many of my concepts. So the concepts that I've developed about how to train and I've published are being used throughout the world now. I think nearly everybody training in the world would be using something that I've developed without necessarily knowing where it came from. But the concepts are very broad and had been very impacting on the way people train. Unfortunately, not enough, because I still have many concerns about the way people train. We can talk about them if it's appropriate. So I've got a lot more work to do yet.